Okay, we're live and we're waiting for some people to come in here. Hi everyone. I see you coming in, but we're gonna give it a few minutes for everyone to come in. Okay, so maybe we'll get started here. All right, everyone. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Welcome to Sculpture X Day 3. I'm thrilled to launch the day's events. I'm Delaney Jenkins. I use the pronoun she, her, in case we bump into each other in the future. And I'm chair of the Department of Studio Arts at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm one of the members of the Sculpture X Organizing Committee. You've already met Lisa Austin of Edinburgh University, Grace Chin of the Sculpture Center in Cleveland, James Laux of Chatham University here in Pittsburgh, and this evening you'll meet Tom Como of Slippery Rock University, and tomorrow you'll meet Patty Beachley of Seton Hill University nearby in Greensburg. It has been an honor to work with this amazing group of colleagues the last 1.5, almost 2 years actually. And before we get started this afternoon, first, it's just important for you all to know that this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to post this to the Sculpture X website for future resource very soon, probably tomorrow. We do also have a Q&A feature here for this webinar on the bottom. You'll see the button, and this is a short panel presentation, but if you do have questions, please put them into the Q&A. I'll be monitoring them. And hope that we'll have time to share them with our presenters towards the end. So don't hesitate to type in some questions. So I'm excited to introduce you now to Sharon Massey and Sean Derry of Sculpture Support System. Sharon and Sean are both professional artists with individual art practices who both teach at the Department of Art and Design at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. At IUP, Sharon leads jewelry and metals area, and Sean leads the sculpture area. Sculpture Support System was formed as a collaborative endeavor in 2019 with an aim of providing an in-depth professional experience for highly motivated students at IUP, which is a generous act of these amazing artists and faculty to work in that way, and I'm so excited to learn more about that. They are engaging the field of social practice, which seeks to make art more inclusive and participatory, one of their aims. And Sculpture Support System develops projects that engage a range of art-making processes while empowering their participants to reimagine the role of art in society. I would say that Sculpture Support System, from my perspective, seems to find a need and jumps in to engage, to question, and to soothe. This spring in March, they quickly launched the Quarantine Companion Project, distributing kits by vending machine in the Pittsburgh area, and some were delivered by mail, like this. And this was some of the component parts. And you see, I had one that got beat up in the mail, and I just unpacked and found it. So I'm wearing my Quarantine Companion sticker. Just unpacked my quarantine kit and I'm getting to work once again. So they find a need, they jump in to engage it, they question, they allow us to participate in something exciting, and then we see what happens in the world and how we can change things. Next Sunday, on September 27th, they will launch Traffic Island Oasis in Indiana, Pennsylvania. So stay tuned, that's at 2 o'clock. But at this point, I will turn it over to our presenters, who I am glad to welcome and glad to have here. So welcome, Sharon and Sean.
Thanks, Delany. We're going to jump right into screen sharing here. All right. You're seeing that, right, Delany?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for that wonderful introduction, and it's really an honor to be talking at Sculpture X. I think I've been taking students since maybe the second year in Cleveland, and we've gone to Columbus and Toledo, and I was really hoping that it would have been such an easy drive to Pittsburgh, but I'm glad that you all figured out a way to make this happen remotely. Sorry, just getting. So as Delany mentioned, I'm Sean Derry. I teach in the sculpture area. I'm a sculptor. I make objects out of fabric, wood, plastic, and metal. These objects are also often combined into moving systems, and these systems over the past decade tend to collect or distribute air. And I think my interest in that medium is really rooted in kind of the abundance, but also the fragility of that medium. And I think, unfortunately, working with air has only become kind of more haunting in the present. And so that certainly is something that I'm kind of wrestling with in my practice.
And I'm Sharon Massey, and I'm a metalsmith and enamelist. And my work is sculptural jewelry that uses the body as site for context. And I want to introduce you to the students who make up Sculpture Support System.
So we are the undergraduate section of Sculpture Support System. My name is David Salinas, and my focus is in jewelry and metals.
Hi, I'm Wes. I'm a senior, and my focus is video and performance art.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I'm a senior, and my focus is on sculpture and mixed media.
Hi, I'm Justin. I'm a junior, and my focus is in illustration and design, and then sculpture.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a senior, and my focus is in sculpture, mostly with wood and metal.
Oh, geez.
Hello, we are.
So Delany kind of alluded to why we started this group, Sharon, but I'm wondering if you could talk about why you felt we were founding the Sculpture Support System.
Sure. I guess I feel like we really wanted to provide mentorship to our undergraduate students, many of whom are really promising, and we just wanted to make sure we could give them a deeper experience than they get in the classroom. And so being able to work on bigger scale projects that have a longer duration than is possible in the class was important to us. Doing projects with a public facing component seemed like something that would be really exciting to work with students. And then, just the professionalism that comes from being an artist and kind of just showing the students some of those processes like grant writing and writing project proposals, and just making sure that the students were getting an experience like that while they were undergrads was really important to us. Hopefully I covered everything. Sean, how has your understanding of the group changed since we formed it a year later?
I think, I guess in some ways I'm glad we didn't know what this year was bringing, but I think my understanding is very much like yours, sort of coming out of teaching and wanting to provide an extracurricular opportunity. But I think I've seen how working outside of the class allows you to teach and mentor in a little more nimble way and sort of respond in a way that maybe your syllabus and assignments don't allow you to do. And so I think I've found a lot of value in trying to kind of respond to immediate needs, both studio needs and also personal needs for myself and the students, and hopefully better prepare them for that transition out of the university and to find success in the field.
So I really value collaboration in like my work and stuff, and I feel like with this group it like always gives me a chance to be collaborative because I don't normally get to do that in my everyday practice sometimes. Like especially my free work, I usually do that independently, so which is kind of nice. But
I agree with that. Joining the sculpture support system has given me another way to like work, and it's aside from my own work, because the artwork that I usually make and the sculptures that I usually make are more like self-focused, and in this sense it switches it around and gives the focus to a more public group and more community-based, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. Like I like you said, I like the community type. Like I like being able to reach out to public spaces, and I'm interested in furthering my education in education. If that makes sense. So I plan on going to school like that. So I like this being a nice segue.
I think it's really interesting how we all have different perspectives, and like, I mean, I talk to you guys a lot and like our professors, but I feel like this is a good way to engage with other artists without it like being hard or like trying. Yeah, I feel like over the past semester or so, like working like together has brought us closer together as a group, and like has made the studio feel more like home than it would otherwise, because you always have those people that are around and you have them to talk to. So.
yeah, I absolutely agree. I love going into the sculpture studio now. Like I kind of just want to sit there. I love it when they come there. I literally slept there, and it's just so nice because like I'm friends with everyone in the class, and then I work with them outside of class. I work on a professional level too, and it's not just like a peer level anymore.
So that was just a little bit from our students on how they value sculpture support system. And I think they're such good students that they were probably in the studio right now listening to this broadcast. And that's why we might have gotten a little bit of like a reverb thing happening there, but I think they figured it out. So good students working on their projects and listening to their professors outside of class. We do meet weekly, and we started meeting weekly right away when we started Sculpture Support System a year ago, and started developing projects together as a group. And so the first project that we started is called the Monument Project. And we really quickly realized as we developed this project that the scope of it was a little bit bigger than what we could fund ourselves. Basically, that would mean Sean and I funding. We don't ask the students to pay anything or have to fund the projects. But we just realized really quickly that grant writing was going to be a really important part of this project. And it's sort of an ongoing thing with this project too. And I wonder if maybe Sean can tell us a little bit about what the project is about.
Sure. Monument Project, as Sharon mentioned, has been kind of an ongoing project, and essentially kind of going back to our roots as social practice and artists that make participatory public art, we're interested in kind of subversively kind of rethinking the monument and how we use public space. And these little mini monument kits would be given to participants. They consist of a small ingot of oil-based modeling clay, a wooden tool, and an information booklet on how they can access sort of support throughout the project. But we're asking them to, with the oil-based modeling clay, sculpt something that you are afraid to lose that can never be replaced. And then We have some ideas for some workshops that would occur throughout that making process. Sculpture support system would collect the participants' sculptures. We would digitally scan them and then 3D print them, ultimately casting them in bronze and exhibiting them in a public exhibition. After that exhibition comes down, we would return the sculptures to the makers. So, you know, there's a lot of ideas around trying to kind of crowdsource monuments rather than let an individual kind of determine what that monument becomes.
Yeah, and so we, Sean mentioned there's a technology component to this project with 3D scanning and 3D printing, and we have gotten some modest grants in order to get the equipment that we need technology-wise, but it still requires quite a bit of bronze and other materials to make this happen. And so we kind of had to put this project on pause a little while we await that funding. But as we've waited, Sean, how has your understanding of the project shifted since we first conceived of it?
Yeah, I guess first off, I just want to thank the panelists from the Art and Agency panel on Wednesday, because they gave such an eloquent kind of discussion of the monument. And I think, you know, as you're making work, it takes time to plan and also make, and sometimes our sort of collective discourse moves towards a project, towards an idea or away from an idea. And it feels like with this project in particular, and the removal of the Confederate memorials, it's only become kind of more challenging, but also more important to start to ask these questions and to start to provide more people with the opportunity to share their ideas and define our public space.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Sean just mentioned. And then I think this is kind of a nice segue into another project that we developed called the Community Quilt. So when we realized that we didn't have enough funding to go forward on the monument project, we were trying to think of a project that we could, you know, that would involve less expensive materials, but still involve the public and get people making a public piece and having a hand in a public artwork. And so we came up with this project that involves etched fingerprints on anodized aluminum. And the public, we go out into public and collect fingerprints from a wide variety of people and populations. Let's see.
Yeah, so as Sharon mentioned, you know, there's some connections here to the Monument Project and really to all of our work. But the idea being that this quilt that's composed of a single fingerprint from each participant could then become kind of a quilt or blanket of sorts that could comfort something in the public realm, but could also maybe more importantly erase something. And so the project has been paused for now, but we're certainly excited to explore some additional opportunities of how this can be installed in the future, and to incorporate display locations around where our participants are engaging in growing or expanding the quilt. When we think about participation, and often I think as artists we want to kind of control every aspect of our practice. Participation is an experience, and we created these little, you saw it early in our bio image, but we created these little kits and structures to carry the triangles, and just hoping to kind of unsettle how we typically interact with people in the public realm, to make this experience sort of unique, enjoyable, and to make them value the exchange that's happening. Here's just the some of the students.
So I want to just show you the quilt, and maybe I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but it's going to get much, much bigger than this. We did a lot of math, actually, at the beginning of the project to figure out how many triangles we would need in order to make a decent sized blanket that would cover up different architectural items, other sculptures, infrastructure, that type of thing. And we need over 2,000 participants to get this up to a decent size. And so this is just a fragment really of the quilt, and I'll show you the back. You saw the students putting it together, but it's just put together with ripstop nylon that was laser cut and then rivets. And so this has been kind of a fun piece because I think we've all learned kind of some new techniques, like anodizing aluminum, I think was new for all of us. And just some of these processes were kind of have been really fun to work on with the group.
So I think in a lot of ways, this project was maybe closest to your individual practice, and you brought the etching technique to the group, and then went on this summer to make a really moving work about mourning in the era of COVID. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the interplay between the work of Sculpture Support System and also your individual studio practice.
Sure, yeah, so I think in general, I keep my studio practice pretty separate from the work that we do with Sculpture Support System, but I did end up using the fingerprint etching technique on a piece this summer. I attended a funeral for my husband's grandmother over the summer, and it was a distanced funeral, and so it was really small and everyone was wearing masks, and we really couldn't hug my mother-in-law, and she was really grieving for the loss of her mom, and it was really hard to watch my husband and his mother deal with that. And I had the idea to make a piece that would be a handheld object that had my husband's fingerprints on it that he could give to his mom, and it would be a tactile piece where she could experience his touch. And I made it in copper, which felt like it's an antibacterial material, evidently, I've learned after some of this COVID stuff. And also copper just has sort of the closest to the color of skin, I think. And so I made, oh, I guess I have to screen share again. I made a piece. I made this piece in response, and it's just called Touch in the Time of Corona. And, and I asked the students also if they would be okay with me making a piece that involved the same technique we were using on the quilt, because I didn't want to, to take away from the quilt at all. I'm really excited about that project and feel that it's really important. But hopefully this is far enough away and kind of reaches a different audience that I think everybody felt like it would be okay. And then I guess before I move on from this, I do just want to talk a little bit about how valuable Sculpture Support System was to me over the summer. It was just really challenging this summer to be distanced from everyone and to feel like, was it even important for me to make artwork anymore? Like, where should my priorities be? And so it was just really nice to have Sculpture Support System and to be able to have a group of people that I could talk to and check in with and just kind of reaffirm how art was important. And I think the students can address that as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the strengths of our group is we kept communicating through the summer. So even if it wasn't productive towards our group's projects, it was really helpful to talk to other artists and other people in the field, so we could, even if we weren't motivated to work, just get ideas for when we were able to start working or wanted to work.
And it's nice having Sharon and Sean because they have a professional aspect on it too.
I feel like they definitely do a lot of legwork, but it's nice to be aware of that and learn from it, but also not get super bogged down by it. I know when I was doing some of my public work, that was a lot. Another benefit of like communicating over the summer is we were able to talk about things that weren't even art related, like our mental health and like how we were doing with the quarantining, and like just to have that group of people that you know are there for you, and they're other artists as well. You still have that nice conversation with other artists.
Yeah, during the summer it really helped me. I didn't make like any art when quarantine was happening, and I was getting so stressed because I wasn't being productive. But just having this meeting, we have them once or twice a week, and it would make me feel even semi-productive in the art world, and it would make me feel better.
So, yeah, in March, things kind of dramatically changed, and we transitioned from regular weekly face-to-face meetings on Thursday mornings to Zoom meetings. And I think it was during maybe the week after spring break, they gave us an extra week to transition all of our classes online. We met with the students and really started talking about how they were doing first and foremost, and what might be some strategies to continue to make and work through this. And through the process of our Zoom calls, developed the idea of the Quarantine Companion, which on the face of it is a really kind of innocent piece where participants are given a sewing needle, two googly eyes, and a piece of thread and asked to make a companion. And, you know, I think underlying that is sort of an acknowledgement of just how difficult it is. And so we initially worked to kind of distribute these at a couple drop locations around campus and in the community, but eventually, as things, it was made sense to sort of not be incentivizing people to be out and about, we transitioned to mailing these kits to participants, soliciting interested people on our website. And in the process of doing the mail version of the Quarantine Companion, the Office of Public Art at GPAC put out a call for artist projects, artists to develop projects that deal with social distancing. We felt like there was kind of a natural relationship already happening there, and we were excited to expand out of Indiana into Pittsburgh and to see if we could get the project in front of more people. I think Sharon's going to talk a little bit about how the project changed across the summer.
Yeah, so we were really excited to get the commission from the Office of Public Art for the project. And then, you know, this was a really hard summer. And right around the time that we were ready to launch this project is when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered. And really everyone's focus, rightly so, was on Black Lives Matter and social justice and addressing all the police brutality that has been so prevalent in our country. And we all were talking about our project and just realized that it was just not the right time to launch a project that was so lighthearted in its approach. And so we put the project on pause. And so it was sort of immediately after we got the commission to go public with it, we had to just stop. And, you know, we even talked about just never moving forward with the project if it didn't feel right. So we continued to meet and have our meetings and talk about art and talk about how important art was and in the Black Lives Matter movement, and how, you know, we didn't want to do anything to distract from that or to try to put ourselves in the focus of that at all. And so we just sort of waited. And later in the summer, you know, the coronavirus really didn't go away, and people were still dealing with isolation and quarantine, and we decided that it would be okay to go ahead and launch the project publicly. And so we did have these vending machines, and they went in different locations around Pittsburgh. So this is the Millvale location in the picture here. And then Assemble and Garfield let us put a vending machine there. And we also had one at Rivers of Steel and at the Brew House Association in Southside. And so, you know, we were able to launch this project. We went through all of the kits. And so there's several hundred kits out there in the world. Hopefully people were able to create a companion for themselves during this really challenging time. And we do have a gallery of the companions that have been submitted to us on our website. And so this is just a little sampling of some of the companions that were made. And, you know, Delaney showed her mailed kit. We do have some of those mailable kits still available. So if you go to our website, there's a link that looks like this with the Quarantine Companion sticker. If you click that link and you fill out the form, we can send you a mailable kit. And there's still time if you send us your image to be included on our online gallery.
So as Delaney mentioned, we're currently working on a project titled the Traffic Island Oasis. And this is, again, a project that sort of came out of some of the same ideas in terms of isolation and distancing and trying to find some way to make our experience at the a little more enjoyable. And so on the edge of campus is a small traffic island that on Sunday, September 27th at 2 p.m. we will be converting into an island where our three-dimensional design students will all display individual cardboard sculptures of objects that they would like to take with them on the island. And so we'll be, stay tuned to the website to see documentation of those projects in place.
Yeah, and we have another project also related to the pandemic. That seems to be, you know, as unfortunate as everything is, in some ways it's kind of an interesting thing because, you know, it does provide a lot of just inspiration for artwork, which sometimes can be challenging for undergraduates, I think. So, so this project, we really wanted to have a project that would be very local, so something really specific to our community at IUP. And the students were really interested in making something fun. You know, not that our other projects haven't been fun, I think, but this one was just, that was one of the big goals. And so we're tentatively calling this Public Protection Experiment, or PPE. And what the students are building there is just sort of a mock-up of, it's going to be two little areas. I'm going to play this little video to maybe have this make more sense. Where you create a bubble for another person. So there's two people that work together and there's a pulley system, and you pull the pulley and you create a bubble on the other person. So just kind of thinking about ideas related to the air we breathe and the danger of that, and you know, protecting each other through wearing our masks and thinking about these types of ideas. This will be something that we can mount in various places around campus and pretty quickly set up the bubble solution and have people participate in this experience, and hopefully kind of get them to think about just the ideas around protecting each other, and that this, you know, this experience that we're all going through is hopefully only temporary and fleeting, and we'll be able to get back to normal eventually. And then we've asked the students to talk a little bit about ideas around collaboration.
I think that's one of the benefits of us just being able to like communicate and talk a lot, because we can just keep bouncing back ideas back and forth, and it doesn't matter if they're absolutely ridiculous. We just go on to the next one and just keep brainstorming. So I think that's like a really good benefit.
And I also like how you could bring up this idea like way in the beginning. I brought up the idea of like absurd absurd machines way in the beginning, and they keep finding their way back, and it's just all of our ideas stay with us and using them as references.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to move to that next image yet, Sean.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you what you think some of the advantages are of collaborating with a colleague.
Yeah, I think I think that you know, as a student, you kind of learn how to be a teacher by watching your teachers, and I think we often teach the way our teachers taught or how we learned, and for me, that's 20 years ago, and I think to be able to mentor through kind of the challenges of the present and to learn how to teach from someone else is really really productive and helpful, and I can't really imagine doing this as an individual. I think it's really a collaboration that relies on the energy of Sharon and I, but also importantly the energy of the students and their ideas and their experiences, kind of in real time. How do you interested to hear you kind of respond to the same question, Sharon?
Yeah, I mean, I really, you know, I look up to you as an educator and as an artist, and so I feel like, you know, I just really admire your teaching style, and so it's nice to see that in action, I think, and I think I agree it's important that we are doing this together, because it would just, I think if it was just one of us, it would be just another class, you know, and the students would get a similar experience to just another class, and it wouldn't have the same level of energy and momentum that we've been able to achieve. And then another thing that I really enjoy about the collaboration is just that we can share skill sets. And so we do have such diverse skills, and so we're able to bring those to projects. I mean, just as a little example, like the pulley system that's going to happen in the bubble project, like that is just something that I would never be able to figure out on my own. Like I'm just not, movement doesn't, I just can't understand it. And so to have somebody to work with and be able to work on these types of projects together, to do things that would just not ever be possible by myself, or even by myself with a group of students, has just been really kind of exciting. Let's
go to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just more from the PPE project, but so can I ask you this one?
Sure.
What is your most outrageous goal for the group?
For us to get a mini truck and vinyl wrap it, sculpture support system. So we have this U-Haul dealer in Indiana that somehow imports these Japanese mini trucks and sells them, and so I drive by them all the time, and they have a pretty good inventory, and we always kind of joke about trying to write these into a grant. They're only $4,000 or $5,000, but to come up with some sort of mobile studio, mobile workspace, I think, you know, that's kind of a lighthearted response, but I think we just sort of glanced over the grant writing and some of kind of the behind the scenes, and that's a really, I think that was very important in founding the group and thinking about wanting to expose students to that, because that's something you don't really see, how much computer time it takes to be a professional artist. And, you know, I think our students are working one, if not two jobs. And I think it would be really wonderful if we could get a larger grant that would eliminate some of the financial hardship of going to school, and to be able to support all the really amazing work they're doing. What's your outrageous goal, Sharon?
Well, I definitely want one of those minivans too. So, but I think you're right. I mean, I think I'd like to be able to exhibit the community quilt in some really big venues, maybe. I feel like when we make this as large as what we intend to do, it could be a really powerful piece. And I would like to see that exist outside of Indiana. So that would be a huge goal. And then, yeah, I think just continuing to grant write and to hopefully continue to find success there so that we can, you know, pay the students. Maybe it could even turn into something where some alumni of our group could be, you know, doing some of the work of the projects as a job after graduation would be great. Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm always just sort of excited to see what we come up with next, because I would have never imagined any of these projects on my own.
Do you see anything that we've kind of learned this throughout the process of this group, kind of hinting at maybe ways to the field or our classes could change to better prepare students for current climate?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's important to just for students to see us in action and to like realize that we're still making work and that we still are moving forward despite all of the challenges that we're facing. And so to exhibit that to the sculpture support system students, but hopefully also even to the students that aren't involved in the group, and for like to reach a broader audience of our own undergraduates, I think would be really useful, so that people just kind of just get a better understanding. I mean, I think so often like students are in their individual classes and they have their own project, and it's really kind of this overwhelming thing to just finish it by crit, and they don't really consider it as anything to do with their future or anything to do with the broader art world. And so I think anything we can do to kind of get students to realize that like your life started already, and this is your studio practice, and this is, you know, this is all real, and it's just as important what you do when you're 19 or 20 years old as it is going to be when you're old like me. And, you know, so I think just modeling that behavior is really important. Has sculpture support system changed your understanding of where the field is headed and how higher education might prepare students for these uncertain times?
Yeah, I think the real value of the group is just engaging students in larger projects, helping them understand. I remember as a student, I hated how slow everything happened. Like you had to apply for exhibitions a year out, and it just felt like it took months to hear back on things, and it was like I was just wanted to respond. But I think you know, there's reasons for that, and there's a need to plan, and a need to fund work, and to find a sustainable practice. And I think it's really important to expose students to that when they have the institution to kind of help support them through that, because it's hard to kind of understand when you're in school how challenging it's going to be when you're out of school and you don't have those people that are just built in to show up and talk about your work with you. And so I think, you know, for me, I think some of this group is really informed by thinking about how the sciences mentor their students, and trying to bring some of that into the field of art, and how to kind of equitably give credit to the people that support our work. I think as a field, we haven't done a terribly great job acknowledging the other people that help produce our work. And so I think there's definitely some hints, but I don't think we've solved this. I mean, I think for every hour we meet with the students, Sharon and I probably spend another hour kind of game planning and strategizing about sort of like how to nudge things along, or what are ultimately our goals, and are we achieving those? And it's sort of a work in progress, but it is really exciting. And I think I'm learning a ton as a teacher and as an artist. And maybe most importantly, it gives me this tiny little thing that I can be optimistic about. And that feels like a huge contribution right now.
Yeah, me too.
So I think we're kind of done with our slides, Delaney. I don't know if you have questions for us, or if we want to open up the Q&A.
So let's open up the Q&A. So for all of you that are out there, I have it up and we'll be watching. But I do have a couple of questions, and I may have apologies if I missed this at the beginning, but I am, so in terms of y'all and the students, this is something that's outside of IUP, but the connections and the place where it occurs is there. Students, like there's no teaching credit for this. The students aren't getting credit for this. And so how did y'all come to the students? Did you put up a sign and the students signed up for it? Did you handpick people? And then I'm curious about, because some of the students are seniors, how will you sustain this as a project once they move on?
Yeah, great question. So we handpicked these students, and I think we intend to continue to do that in a way, although some of the projects that we're doing now have quite a public component here at IUP. And so I think the hope is that maybe some students will just be interested in the group that we haven't even identified as possibilities. And then I think I'm also, always looking at my my intro classes and foundations classes to find students that seem like they would be a good fit. And by good fit, I think I just mean hardworking and excited. I mean, talented is always wonderful too, but I think there's so much about being an artist that is just about working hard and being committed to it that, if you have those two traits, you can be successful.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there any other pieces to that, Delaney?
No, I was pausing in case you wanted to add any more to that.
No, I agree. I mean, I think there's some real value to it. I mean, yeah, we meet in the university. There are students that we still have in our classes, and so sometimes that is an interesting kind of thing to navigate, because I think within the group there's a desire to break down some of the hierarchy of teacher student, but they're also in our classes, and so you can't escape kind of the reality of that. But I think if they were getting credit, or even if we were getting teaching credit for it, it would be a little harder to just kind of hold the differences in my head, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree about your point too, Sharon, about talent versus hard work also. But so that separation, that divide between faculty and student and the space of where this occurs. Do you have students knocking on your door? Like, we want to be involved, or what, this is so intense? And I mean, I think I so appreciate the commitment of both of you, and then also the commitment of the students. I mean, like, how it's a lot, and I'm sure kind of through all the arc of what you've been through, even through these 3, 4, 5 projects, there's been some real enthusiasm, and then some and some excitement, and then some disappointment, and so kind of writing that together, kind of this push and pull of the commitment of time, but also the enthusiasm, people watching from the outside, wondering if there's a space for them. So are people lining up? Do you
Not
know?
that we're hearing about, but I mean, I think that's our, that would be great if students started approaching and wanting to be a part of it. I mean, I think there's no magic number to the number of students we're working with, and we would like to grow the group, and but that hasn't really happened right now. And part of that might be just kind of the challenges of the spring semester, and when our projects really started becoming public, the students weren't around other than the students that we were Zooming with. So we have resumed sort of socially distanced meetings on Thursdays, but for a long time it was Zoom, and continues to be Zoom to some extent. So it's probably hard for other students to kind of find their way into that.
Right, that makes sense. So one of the questions that just came up is, okay, so when did this start? In 2019. And will y'all participate in our Sculpture X 2021 next fall? So that can be a rhetorical question. You don't have to commit now, but yes, it'd be awesome. And then, have any non-art students been involved? I think that's a great question. Have any non-artists been involved?
Not yet. I mean, I don't have much interaction with any non-artists.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I think we'd probably be open to it if we, I do get non-majors in my classes, but they're typically like seniors that got a foot out the door. So I think I would be open to that. But I think it would be a little bit more challenging. I was also going to say we have lost a couple students, probably due to, we meet at 9 a.m., which I think, it's not a big deal for us, but I think that does sort of say something to the commitment of the students that are in the group, that they do show up at 9 a.m. on Thursdays, and they did throughout the summer, even meeting twice a week most of the summer at 9 a.m., which I think for undergrads is a pretty impressive thing to do.
That is impressive. And I guess, one of the questions I had too was about the community quilt, which is such a, oh my gosh, I'm really looking forward to seeing that in person. It's a beautiful project. And so through the different documentation of it that you showed, so I'm wondering what you anticipate the full size of it to be. So that's one question. Another question is about, how do you engage the public when you're going out to collect fingerprints? I mean, so that seems like next level in terms of conspiracy theory, kind of conversation that we mentioned before. And then also, Sean, you mentioned in talking about that to add comfort to something, but also to conceal. So I'm curious about kind of that tension there, about that project, which is exciting.
Yeah, so maybe I'll try the hard question first. I think, coming back to our discourse within the field, but also the wider public discourse about monuments and public space, I think our town is named Indiana, and all of our schools their mascot is still the Indian. We have a totem pole at the high school, and the university mascot was also the Indians and was changed, but we still have a bronze Indian in front of our athletic facility. There's not a whole lot of dialogue between the department and the university on the public art that occupies campus. And so I think, I think some administrators, it might just sort of, I don't know if they're even aware of, hopefully they're aware of the conversation to some extent, but I think this piece and the quite literal sort of, replacement of a single piece for the touch of all of these individuals, I think might help kind of start that conversation. It's not an answer by any means. And I think kind of coming around to the surveillance, that was, and the challenges around asking for a fingerprint. We piloted it, and we were in thinking about the participation and the engagement. We've thought a lot about the language and maybe replacing fingerprint with touch, and actively seeking out groups that would be interested in participating in it, and not necessarily just approaching people on the street and asking for, we have some thoughts about different populations and groups that we'd like to include as a way of just kind of collapsing social divisions, but unfortunately, we haven't really gotten that far. We went to a couple high schools regionally and presented on the project and had them participate, and then everything kind of shut down, and we've sort of been stalled on that project now for a few months.
Yeah, the easy part of the question, I think, was how big it will get. I think we have enough metal right now to make it like about an 8 by 10 foot quilt, but the way that it's designed, it could grow as big. I mean, the pattern could just extend either direction and indefinitely. And, the material cost is pretty low. So I think the limitation will end up being how we transport it at a certain scale, because I think eventually it will be too big for the back of Sean's truck, probably.
That's when the mini truck comes in. That's
Yeah.
part of that.
And I think I can speak for Sharon that we would love to participate in Sculpture X next year.
Yeah.
Maybe we can bring our quilt down and put it on the dinosaur out in front of the Carnegie Library.
Great idea. I love that idea. We can find all sorts of participants for you too, depending on, who knows what the world will be like then. So I think another question is that my students are working on collaborations right now in small groups, working remotely and in person when they feel comfortable. And I think one of the things for me in collaboration, Sean, I know you've collaborated before, Sharon, I'm not sure if you have before, but I think is that when we come together with other makers, and you all spoke about this in terms of your teaching and seeing how someone else teaches, it always impacts our own work. And Sharon, that the piece that you shared about touch that you made this summer, even your kind of move back to the group asking if it was okay, I thought was such a honoring of the collaboration of Sculpture Support System. And so I'm wondering how else you've seen this impact your own individual work, or if you could even speak for any of the students on that also, but thinking of your work.
You want to take that, Sharon, or you want me to?
I can start. I mean, I don't think it has had a huge impact on my own work, but everything is so weird right now. I don't even know where my own work necessarily is. It's like, where are my priorities? And I do consider the work with Sculpture Support System part of my studio practice too. It's just different pieces, but it's important to me. Maybe it's something I'll be able to look back on in a few years and see how it affected my studio practice, but I think I'm just too close to it right now to really see if there's been a change. And with the students, I'm trying to think if I've noticed a change in their work too. I mean, not necessarily their work, but I think just their relationships with each other have gotten a lot stronger, and their comfort level with talking about work and talking about their ideas and then working through issues. I think I've noticed a difference there. I don't know if you have.
And I think their commitment to their work. I mean, and this couple of our students we have a number of seniors too graduating and working on their BFA show right now. And I think even just across I think one of the hardest things this summer was just tuning into the Zoom and just kind of seeing the angst and seeing like just visually through their body language, like, you know, I think it was hard on me, but I'm, you know, I recognize kind of I would like to think I recognize some of the privilege that I have, and you know, I have my job through at least May, and I can't wrap my head around what it might be like to graduate out into the world right now and feel confident that you're going to hit the ground and be okay. And I think to see them sort of work together to come closer and to see their commitment only intensify, I think is, you know, really rewarding as a teacher. And I think that's one of the things I've kind of taken away from this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And I'm going to come back to something in a second, but we have another question in here from Rachel. Do you think that collaborative art between artists and the public helped to raise the status of art in the eyes of society? And you know, and maybe the kind of a subtext is, what do we think this society thinks about the status of art?
Yeah, I think that's been important on several of our projects, was that we include the public and that we include them in a way that they are makers and that they experience the work, whether it's a more involved process like the Monument Project or a really quick process like the Community Quilt, but that they somehow are involved in the making of the art that is going to be seen in public and exhibited. And so I think that that's definitely something that we're thinking about all the time.
And I think engage them in a way that we're advocating for the value of art in society. And I think for us that, you know, there's a technical thread, like, you know, the digital scanner and the 3D printer and the vinyl plotter that sort of kind of tracks through the work and trying to, as a group, acquire new technical skills, but also to share kind of the value of understanding medium and the ability to work with your hands. And so I think the Monument Project maybe, you know, really illustrates that, kind of trying to straddle the conceptual rigor of thinking about how do we sort of memorialize things in public, but also giving them a tool and a piece of material and asking them to invest, you know, a few hours in making something. And so I think our hope is that participation is a significant participation where they would feel like there'd be multiple touch points. And so maybe their experience with artists or you know, it isn't just kind of this weird thing that I don't understand, but it's something that I'm starting to maybe think differently about the work and how my voice can be a part of that.
Yeah, I love the idea about the crowdsourced monument through the Monument Project, and you know, not unlike what Paul Farber's been doing with Monument Lab. You know, one of the elements of that project in terms of, you know, querying the public about, if you were to build a monument, you know, in these different cities, or, you know, in the city in which you live, you know, what would it be, and who would you honor if it's a person, or how would you show it? It's such a great question to engage everyone in. But the conceptual and the rigor, I think, that's a great comment too. It's just like, it's none of this, how much computer time it takes to be an artist, how much screen time anyway, and the collapse at the end of the day is like an important thing to acknowledge, for sure. Yeah. Let's see. So we're coming to the end of our time. Is there anything else that y'all would like to know? Or, oh, I guess one thing I wanted to say was, Sharon, you've said a couple of times just that the uncertainty of our world since March has really had you thinking about studio practice and what you can make that matters. And Sean, you just noted even you know, as a faculty member, you know, we are in academia, we're involved in this machine that kind of, you know, it is an institutional machine, but we're involved on the front lines with the people. And, you know, so there's this, you know, this care of these students as, you know, we're teaching and sharing and how we get through these troubling times. But then there's also like this movement, and they go out and they do something, and the next set comes in and they go out and they do something. And so the uncertainty of you know, this set, we moved out last year, and this new group we're going to move out, and so that uncertainty, and I really appreciate that both of you have acknowledged that, you know, we're not just doing the rah-rah cheerleading. It's like our whole world and what we do, you know, is being revised. Everything is, and, you know, should be. And so to be sitting in that and holding that is really strong. And I just appreciate you mentioning that. And I'm sure your students, as part of the conversations this summer, really appreciate that as well. It's a question we're all grappling with. We can't just go through the moves on any of this. But any last thoughts? Or last questions even from our viewers?
I guess, you know, I think one of the really wonderful things about Sculpture X is that it is, I mean, maybe not this year, but it tended to be a fairly regional and defined as a pretty big region. But, you know, I think we're open to collaborating and talking, and would love to hear other success stories of other collaborative groups happening and other, you know, whether it's connected to higher ed or not. And so would just encourage people to reach out, and we'd love to talk with you and have you jump in on the Zoom on Thursday morning if you'd like.
That's a great invitation for everyone out there, anyone involved. Great. Okay. Anything else, Sharon? Want to?
No, just thanks so much for having us.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks to our students for providing the video and hopefully watching at home. And yeah, this is yeah, a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I so appreciate you being here and sharing this work. And thanks for being a part of Sculpture X Day 3, Panel 1. And we have 2 more events to go today. At 3 o'clock, we're going to have our Emerging Artists panel with 8 emerging artists convened by Angie Sikora. And these artists are from different groups or different universities in the region. And then this evening, let's see, I want to be sure I get the time on this right. It's at 5:30. Convener Tom Como from Slippery Rock will have Elizabeth Meyer and J. Morgan Hewitt to talk about Mildred's Lane project, which is a residency in Pennsylvania. And so thank you everyone. So glad to have you. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Sharon. Students at IUP, very excited about what you're working on, and look forward to seeing you all soon and in the panels this afternoon. All right, thank you.